The debate over daylight saving time resurfaced this week in Ontario. A Liberal MPP introduced a private member's bill called the Sunshine Protection Act. It would see all Ontario clocks move forward an hour in March 2020, but then that's it. The province would skip the fallback in November and leave the clocks alone. So why should Ontarians support this bill? Marie-France Lalonde is the Ontario Liberal MPP for Ottawa-Orleans, and she joins us now from Toronto. Hi, Ms. Lalonde. Nice to see you. Thank you for your time.
No, you're welcome.
I have to ask you, why is this the issue you're championing? Why is this important to you?
Well, I think it's important for a lot of Ontarians. You know, for several years, I think everybody wonders why we're still doing this back and forth in our clocks. You know, a lot of people are questioning why we're doing this. So over the last few years, you heard a lot of people sort of challenging the why. And when you start looking at study after study, I decided to bring in a private member's bill last Wednesday to have this conversation.
What would you say, like if you were selling this bill to Ontarians right now, like what are the selling features?
Well, I think the study demonstrates that there's a strong advantages, many advantages actually, to keep the daylight savings. We've seen an increase in productivity. You know, when you fall back the clock, a lot of people feel, you know, probably less happy. So keeping the daylight saving has shown more productivity. We've also seen a decrease, well, based on the study, the fact that we're changing the clock has actually increased the amount of death-related incidents on our roads, increased heart attack, and also from an activity for children. So there's benefits to keep the daylight saving as to keeping people more active, more productive, and healthier.
The studies that you're referring to, I mean, how comprehensive were they? Where are they from?
Actually, it's a medical journal, American Medical Journal, studies from Canadian journals, and all over the international studies. So it's, you know, what you look at the benefits from those research and study, it clearly demonstrates that there's a reason why we should keep the daylight saving on a permanent basis.
They know more than I do, for sure. But I know, you know, even based on my own experience or with kids, it's an acclimatization. Surely it throws you off initially, but eventually you kind of forget that it's happened and things go back to normal. Is that not fair? I mean, is it really necessary to change the whole system if that in fact is true? And once again, those journals know a lot more than me.
Well, to be fair, I think there's, you know, there is everybody will have an opinion. There's pro and cons for everything that we propose, but I would say from a factual information, a lot of people are wondering why we're still doing this. You know, years ago it was implemented for many reasons. You know, energy conservation. Now the study has shown that actually it's not really relevant anymore. When you look at the productivity of our workforce and the impact that it has, you tell yourself, why are we still moving forward? We're going back in our time. For the reason why we're having this conversation, you also look at the robberies that are, you know, decreasing during the daylight saving. So you tell yourself from a safety component of our neighborhood. Well, again, this is all about Canadian study, American study that you picked up through various channels that when you start looking at and you ask for Ledge Research to give you some information. And also just I would say from a vast majority of Ontarians, right? They're wondering why we're still doing this. It does affect also our mental health. People seems to be less happy when we fall back, as we say. I worked in a retirement residence, seniors industry for several years, and you know how it disturbs individuals' sleep habits. So you tell yourself, is it time in 2019 to actually have this conversation and keep daylight savings?
Yeah, I understand having the conversation. I guess I wonder if you can draw that direct correlation. You know, for example, with something like mental health, which could be caused by a multitude of factors, to be able to say, oh, it's because we have daylight saving times or we don't.
I wouldn't say it's one. You know what? it's an amount, it's many reason why. So there's not, you know, I wouldn't say mental health is the only reason because of daylight saving. I think that would be completely wrong for me to even acknowledge this. But what I'm saying is that it does have an impact on our mental health, on our overall behavior, how we feel. It has a higher indicator of potentially causing depression. So I'm not saying this is the only reason, but that's one of the reasons. So I tell we are having this conversation today, and I'm sure a lot of people are saying, yeah, actually, I do feel you know, less happy when we are falling back and when I see, as I'm at work, seeing the sunset, right? So what I'm saying is we should look into this more seriously.
If your bill, Ms. Lalonde, is passed, it would apply in Ontario, here in Ottawa, and I know you're from this region. People who live or work in Gatineau or vice versa would sort of be in a different, almost a different time zone for a period of the year. Wouldn't that make things more chaotic? And I'm wondering also if you've reached out, for example, to any of your counterparts in Quebec on this.
I did, actually.
And what do they say?
Well, actually, they think it's a great idea. There's also individuals in Manitoba who have recently contacted me since I introduced the bill, saying that they have been a consideration to see how they can achieve the same outcome, which is keeping daylight saving. In 1966, Saskatchewan made a decision to keep daylight saving in the States, actually. In California, there's a strong conversation near a referendum on this issue. We also know from several governors in the States who brought forward to Congress at the federal level a bill to actually the same name, Protecting Our Sunshine Act, to say that the entire United States should keep daylight savings. So I hope that this sparks a conversation among the Quebec and Manitoba, and we can collaborate, right? So if Ontario decides, if the government was to choose to move forward in that decision, we can certainly we have time to have this conversation and see how Quebec and Manitoba could align their clock at the same as ours.
All right, I'll leave it there. Thank you very much, Ms. Lalonde.
Thank you very much.
That's Marie-France Lalonde in Toronto.